Hey! Welcome back to Mind Your Conversions, brought to you by Fibr. If you're new here, this is where we break down the art and science of marketing, helping you understand it better, explore fresh strategies, and most importantly, drive higher conversions. So whether you're a seasoned pro, or even if you're just getting started, you're in the right place.
All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we're going deep on conversion rate optimization.
CRO.
CRO. We've got a ton of great stuff you sent us, and this awesome guide called Conversion Rate Optimization, the complete guide to boosting conversions.
Nice.
So you're clearly looking to, really make your website or marketing work harder for you.
For sure.
And this deep dive, I think, is going to give you those nuggets of wisdom to make it happen.
I hope so.
But before we even get into, all the details and stuff,
Yeah.
I'm curious, when you hear conversion rate optimization, what pops into your head?
Oh, well, I mean, it's more than just a buzzword, right? It's really all about getting your visitors to, actually DO something on your site.
Right.
Not just wander around. So it's understanding what actions we want them to take, and then how do we make it super easy for them?
See, that's interesting because this guide actually throws out a pretty shocking stat.
Yeah.
The average landing page conversion rate is only 2.35%. Out of every 100 visitors, only 2 are actually doing what you want them to do.
Yeah, that's definitely not a recipe for success.
Yeah.
But it does highlight the potential, right?
Totally. Even a tiny boost to that conversion rate, that could be huge.
Exactly. And think about it. It doesn't have to be just about sales. It could be anything. Whatever your website is trying to achieve.
Right.
So CRO is about figuring out what really clicks with your specific audience.
So it's more than just that buy now button, right? It's about the whole experience.
Little enchilada. It could be getting people to sign up for a newsletter, downloading something, or even just spending more time, exploring your content.
I like that.
Whatever your goals are, it's about understanding how people behave on your site and then making it like a super highway to get there.
Yeah. So this guide actually lays out some pretty cool benefits of CRO, better understanding your customers, reducing those pesky acquisition costs.
Ugh, I know, right?
Making the user experience way better and increasing that customer lifetime value. Let's unpack these a bit, starting with understanding your customer. How does CRO help you kind of get inside their heads?
Well, it's like having this secret window into how people are actually interacting with your website.
Oh.
Yeah, through data. You can actually see where people are clicking, how long they're hanging out on a page, and even where they get frustrated and bounce.
Okay.
And that tells you a lot.
So instead of just guessing what people want, you have real evidence.
Bingo. That's the power of data-driven decisions.
I like that. There's actually a stat in here about customer loyalty and how it increases when people feel understood. 74% of customers say they're more loyal to brands that, get them.
That makes total sense to me.
Right. If a brand is vibing with what I need, I'm going to stick around.
Absolutely. It's all about trust and making people feel valued. And that's where CRO comes in.
Now, let's talk about the fun part, saving money. This document claims CRO can help reduce customer acquisition costs. Who doesn't want to cut costs?
Oh, yeah. That's music to my ears.
Yeah.
Especially with CAC. Those acquisition costs going through the roof these days. This guide mentions they've gone up by a crazy 202%.
Wow. 202. That's a lot.
It is. But CRO helps you make the most of every visitor you've already got.
Right.
And so you're stretching that marketing budget further. You're not necessarily spending more. You're just getting way more out of what you're already spending.
So it's about maximizing that return on investment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Working smarter, not harder, as they say.
Now, this guide really emphasizes user experience UX, which I think we can all relate to because we've all been on those websites that are just a nightmare to navigate, right?
Yeah. Those are the ones I close immediately.
Me too. And apparently we're not alone. It says here that 88% of visitors won't go back to a site with a bad UX.
Yeah.
So that's a major red flag for businesses.
Definitely a wake-up call. A smooth, enjoyable experience is key for engagement and getting people to come back for more.
And that leads us perfectly to the final benefit, boosting that customer lifetime value.
Right.
So how does CRO help with that?
Well, think about it this way. When people have a good experience with your brand,
Yeah.
they're more likely to become repeat buyers.
Makes sense.
They spend more over time. CRO is all about creating those positive experiences so that customers stick around and become loyal fans.
Okay, I think we have a good grasp on what CRO is and why it's so important. Now let's talk about some of the key concepts involved. The document we've got here has a really clear structure, so we'll kind of use that as our roadmap.
Sounds good.
First up, enhancing website design. What are we talking about here?
Well, the biggies are clarity and making it super easy to navigate. Visitors should be able to find what they're looking for quickly without getting lost or confused.
Right.
And it all needs to make sense with how they got there in the first place.
Oh, that reminds me of how annoying it is when you click an ad for a specific product and it takes you to some totally random page.
Oh, I hate that.
Wait, what?
Totally. It's about setting the right expectations and providing a seamless experience.
Yeah.
Think about your own landing pages. Are they doing that? Are they screaming their purpose and guiding people to where you want them to go?
Ooh, good question for our listeners to think about. Okay, moving on to the words. I've always been fascinated by the power of copywriting, how it can persuade people. So what kind of impact can great copy have on conversions?
Oh, it's huge. Copywriting is like the voice of your website. It's how you communicate what you're all about.
Yeah.
It can totally make or break whether someone sticks around or bounces. This guide even mentions that, user-generated content, like reviews from other customers, can boost conversions by 3.2%.
Really?
Yeah. So that says a lot about how powerful, authentic, and relatable messaging can be.
That's so interesting. So it's not just about being clever or salesy. It's about making a real connection.
For sure. It's about addressing your audience's pain points, right?
Yeah.
Focus on the benefits, not just the features, and have super clear calls to action. Instead of just listing features, tell people how your thing can solve their problems and make their lives better.
And I bet keeping it concise is super important too. Nobody wants to read a novel on your website.
Oh yeah, people are busy. Get to the point quickly.
Now let's talk about data, which is the lifeblood of any good CRO strategy. What makes data so essential?
Well, data is your secret weapon.
Ooh, I like that.
It lets you see how people are using your website, and that helps you figure out what's working and what's not. But what's crazy is that, get this, 83% of marketers don't use data enough.
83%?
Yeah. So if you're willing to embrace data, you have a huge advantage.
Wow, that's a big opportunity. So what tools should people be using to make sense of all this data?
Well, there are a ton of analytics tools out there that can make data way less scary. You can track all kinds of cool things like conversion rates, bounce rates, how long people are on a page, and a bunch more.
Okay, now calls to action. Those buttons we really want people to click on.
The money makers.
There's actually a wild story in this guide about Bing, the search engine. They increased their revenue by $80 million just by changing the color of their CTA buttons.
Wow, that's wild. Color psychology in action.
Right. It just goes to show how powerful even small design choices can be.
Yeah.
So what are some other things that can make a big difference with CTAs?
Well, telling people what they'll get is key. Instead of just saying, click here, try something like download your free guide.
Right.
And you can even create a sense of urgency or exclusivity, like limited time offer or join now.
So it's about making it irresistible.
Exactly. You got to make them want to click.
All right. Almost done with our key concepts rundown, but we got to circle back to understanding user behavior, which feels like a recurring theme here.
It's the foundation. Everything we've talked about, the design, the copy, the data, the calls to action, it all comes back to understanding how people use your website.
Yeah.
And this guide even gets into some pretty cool user behavior analytics tools like heat maps and session recordings.
Ooh, what are those?
So heat maps show you where people are clicking and scrolling, which can be super insightful.
Okay.
And session recordings, well, you can actually watch how individuals navigate your site. It's like peeking over their shoulder and seeing exactly how they experience it. You can see where they hesitate, get frustrated, and where they finally decide to convert or, say, see you later.
That sounds amazing. With tools like that, we can really pinpoint the areas where we need to improve.
Exactly. The goal is to create a seamless, intuitive, and enjoyable experience that guides visitors toward their goals and yours, making it a win-win for everyone.
So we've been talking a lot about websites, but this document actually emphasizes that CRO isn't just for websites, right? These principles apply across, your whole marketing landscape.
That's right. It's a way of thinking, not just tactics.
Yeah.
You can bake CRO into paid media, your own stuff, even earned media.
Ooh, I hadn't thought about applying it to things like paid ads. How does that even work?
Well, you're spending money to drive traffic to your site, right?
Right.
So CRO makes sure those people, once they get there, actually have a good experience.
That makes sense.
They got to convert. It's like making sure your ads and your landing pages are on the same page,
Yeah. It's like if the landing page sucks, you're just wasting money on those clicks.
Totally. It's all about getting the most out of every dollar you spend on ads.
So let's talk about owned media then. This is where things get really interesting because it's all the stuff you control directly, right? Website, your blog, email list, social media. How do we use CRO there?
Lots of ways. Website content can be more engaging, lead to specific actions.
Okay.
Emails that get people clicking, checkout processes that are smooth as butter to boost sales. It's all about making it easy for your audience to do what you want them to do.
I love that we have that control. It feels empowering to be able to kind of shape those interactions and optimize each step.
It is. You can experiment, see what works, and then adjust.
Yeah.
It's all based on what you're learning about your audience.
Okay, now earned media, this feels a bit trickier. It's like those conversations happening out there, the shares, reviews, press mentions.
Right. You can't control it directly.
Exactly.
But you can still influence the experience, Think about it. Someone reads a great review, clicks over to your site.
Okay, yeah.
What happens next?
Well, they should land on a page that backs up that good feeling, right? Give them the info they need.
Bingo. We might not control what they say out there, but we can control what happens when they land on our site because of it.
So it's making sure everything's working together, owned media, earned media, all creating a good experience.
Yep. Consistency builds trust.
I want to switch gears for a second and talk about the customer journey. I think this document really nailed it when it said that CRO isn't just about that final sale, right?
Yeah, it's bigger than that.
It's about optimizing the whole experience.
A whole shebang. From the moment they even hear about you to buying, and even after that.
So how do we even apply CRO to something that big? Seems like a lot to think about.
Well, first you got to know the stages. Right. Awareness, consideration, decision, and hopefully they stick around and even tell their friends. You got to optimize each step in those stages.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Someone's doing research. They're in that awareness stage. They find your blog post. That's a touch point.
Okay, got it.
How do we optimize that post to, gently guide them further?
Yeah.
Well, we could have a call to action at the end. Download a guide, sign up for the newsletter. We're nurturing that interest and giving them a next step.
Oh, I see. So each touch point is a chance to move them closer to converting, but in a natural way, right?
Exactly. Data is your guide here. By seeing how they behave, you can spot those rough spots and smooth them out. This guide even talks about segmenting your audience.
So creating different paths for different types of customers based on their needs.
That's it. Segmentation lets you personalize the experience, speaking to everyone in a way that makes sense for them.
Okay, feeling pretty good about our CRO knowledge now. But this document talks about some common misconceptions.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Ready to do some myth busting?
Let's do it.
First one, CRO is all about A/B testing.
Well, A/B testing is important, for sure, but it's not the whole story. It's just one tool.
Right, it's not magic.
It's about strategy, understanding your audience, using data. A/B testing is like checking if your ideas are good.
Yeah. Okay, next myth. Just follow the best practices and you're golden.
This is a tough one. Best practices are a good place to start, but every website, every audience is different.
So you got to understand why those best practices work and adapt them to your situation.
You got it. Be a thinker, not just a rule follower.
All right, another one. All website visitors are basically the same.
Oh, that's a recipe for disaster. Assuming everyone's the same is like the opposite of CRO.
Right. We're all different. We use the web differently.
That's why segmentation is so powerful. It lets you acknowledge those differences and create more targeted experiences.
Okay, here's another one I hear a lot. CRO is a one-time thing. Set it up and forget it.
Definitely not. It's an ongoing process, always changing and adapting.
This guide actually uses a great analogy. It's like tending a garden, right? You got to nurture it, prune it, plant new seeds for growth.
I love that. Constant attention, always refining.
And finally, the myth that small tweaks always equal big wins.
Well, sometimes they do, but sometimes you need a deeper fix.
Yeah, it depends on the problem.
It's about understanding why people aren't converting and fixing that root cause. A little tweak on the surface might not be enough.
Okay, myths busted. Now, how do we know if all our CRO efforts are actually working?
That's the million-dollar question. We got to make sure this hard work is paying off. This document breaks down the different ways you can measure your progress.
All right, let's get into the metrics then. What are the main categories we need to know about?
So we got leading indicators, lagging indicators, and KPIs. Each one gives you a different piece of the puzzle.
Starting with leading indicators, what are those all about?
They're like sneak peeks into user behavior. They can tell you if you're on the right track.
So they're like early warning signs or early celebration signs.
Exactly. Think about things like how many people are clicking your links, how long they're on the page, how far they're scrolling.
Right, so if they're clicking, reading, and scrolling, that's good, right?
Yeah, it means they're engaged and moving towards what you want them to do.
Okay, now, lagging indicators. What makes them different?
These are the big results. They tell you what actually happened.
So this is where we see if we're hitting those conversion goals.
Right. Things like conversion rate, how much people are spending, and that lifetime value we talked about.
Okay, lagging indicators show us the bottom line, the real impact.
Yep.
And lastly, KPIs. I hear that term everywhere. But what does it mean for CRO?
KPIs, or key performance indicators, track how your website is doing overall, the big picture stuff.
So not just individual actions, but how the whole website's performing?
Right on. Common ones for CRO are bounce rate and exit rate.
Let's break those down. What's bounce rate telling us?
Bounce rate is how many people land on your page and leave without doing anything. Like they just bounce right off.
Okay.
A high bounce rate could mean your content isn't good, the page is slow, or the experience is just bad.
So it's like a measure of how sticky your website is.
Exactly. If people are bouncing, something's probably wrong.
An exit rate, how's that different?
Exit rate is similar, but it's for specific pages. It tells you how many people are leaving your site from that page, no matter how many other pages they've seen.
So it helps pinpoint where people are getting lost, like those bottlenecks in the journey.
Exactly.
Okay, so leading indicators, lagging indicators, KPIs, we watch all these to get a complete view of our CRO efforts.
That's the data-driven approach. You're always learning and making smarter decisions.
I love it, but I'm sure some people are thinking, okay, I'm ready to go. Where do I even start with CRO?
Enthusiasm is great, but got to make sure you're actually ready. This document has some good advice for getting started.
All right, what are the essentials?
First, you need enough website traffic to analyze. If you only have a few visitors a month, it's hard to draw any conclusions.
Right, you need enough data to see the patterns.
Exactly. Second, you got to know what you're aiming for. What are your business goals? How will you measure success?
So you're not just optimizing randomly.
Nope, got to have a target.
Yeah.
And finally, you need the resources to actually make those changes. Developers, designers, copywriters, whatever it takes.
So being realistic about what you can handle.
Exactly. Setting yourself up to win from the start.
Okay, so let's say you've got all that covered and you're ready to go. This document has a nice roadmap for beginners.
It's a great framework for taking action.
What's step one?
Create a buyer persona. We've been talking about understanding your audience, and this is where it starts.
Buyer personas are classic for a reason.
They help you get specific. It's not just demographics, it's their pain points, what they want, what their goals are.
Right. If we know who we're talking to, we can design better experiences.
For sure.
Step two, audit your website.
This is where you take a good, hard look at how your site's doing.
A website health check. Are we meeting our goals? Where are we falling short?
Love it.
And step three is identifying bottlenecks, those exit triggers.
Yep. Figure out why things are happening. Where are people getting stuck?
So a confusing menu, a clunky form, a slow page.
All of that. Find those friction points and smooth them out.
Step four, generating hypotheses.
This is where you brainstorm solutions. What could we change to improve things?
So putting on our thinking caps, coming up with potential fit.
And prioritize them. What's going to have the biggest impact?
Yeah.
No point wasting time on stuff that won't move the needle.
Makes sense. And then the exciting part, step five, run experiments.
Time to test those ideas. A/B testing is a great way to do that.
Like a science experiment, using data to see what really works.
And remember, CRO is a journey, not a destination. Keep monitoring your results and adjust as needed.
Be flexible, stay responsive.
That's it.
Okay, wow. We've gone from the basics of CRO to running experiments and measuring success.
We have. Hopefully our listeners feeling empowered and ready to take action.
Speaking of taking action, this document talks about AI-powered CRO tools. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It is. AI is changing the game. These tools can analyze tons of data and then use it to personalize things, automate A/B testing, even predict what users will do.
It's like having a CRO robot working for you 24/7.
Right, constantly optimizing and making things better.
Should our listener be looking into these AI tools? Are they the future of CRO?
They're definitely becoming more common, and they can be very powerful,
Yeah.
especially for sites with lots of traffic. But it really depends on your needs and what you have to work with.
So like any tool, it's about choosing the right one for the job, not just following the hype.
Exactly. Find what works best for you and your goals.
Well, I think we've reached the end of our CRO deep dive. I feel pretty energized.
Me too. It's been a great exploration.
Before we wrap up completely, I want to leave our listener with a final thought. This document mentioned those AI tools that can personalize things at scale. Is that something you might consider?
That's a great question. It's a really exciting time for CRO. With all these new tools and techniques coming out, stay curious, keep experimenting, and keep learning.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on the CRO deep dive. We hope you got a lot out of it and are feeling ready to boost those conversions and achieve your goals.
Absolutely.
And as always, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to dive deeper into anything we discussed.
We're always happy to help.
Yeah, I think so too. It feels like we've given them like a solid base to start thinking about CRO in a whole new way.
Yeah, definitely. And I love how these deep dives, it's not just about like finding the answers. It's about sparking new questions.
Exactly.
Wanting to go deeper.
Speaking of going deeper, there is something this document touches on that I think we should at least mention. The ethical side of CRO. We haven't really gotten into that yet, but it feels kind of important.
It is important, like any powerful tool, CRO, can be used for good or for, well, not so good.
Right.
It's important to remember that we're dealing with real people, not just numbers in a spreadsheet.
So it's about finding that balance, right? Like optimizing for conversions, but also respecting people's privacy.
Exactly.
And like making sure they feel in control.
It's about being transparent, giving people control over their data and not trying to trick them into doing something they don't actually want to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not just about getting that click. It's about building trust and relationships that last.
Absolutely. Sustainable success in CRO. It comes from creating those win-win situations where everyone benefits.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, that ethical perspective. It's a good reminder that even though we're talking about websites and funnels and all that, it's really about human connection at the end of the day.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today, from the basics of CRO to that customer journey and all the ethical things we need to keep in mind.
It's been a really thorough exploration, and I hope our listener is walking away with, a whole bunch of ideas they can actually use and a renewed excitement for CRO.
I think the cool thing about CRO is that it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you just do it once and you're done.
Right.
There's always more to learn and experiment with.
Always something new around the corner.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into conversion rate optimization. We hope you found it valuable, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or if there's anything you want to explore further.
We're always happy to help.
Until next time, happy optimizing.
Thanks for tuning in. That's it for this episode of Mind Your Conversions, brought to you by Fibr. I hope you are leaving with fresh ideas and strategies to take your marketing and your conversions to the next level. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Thanks for listening. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next time.